Hurricane Melissa marches on through the Bahamas. Well, now a Category 2 hurricane, Hurricane Melissa is still looking quite interesting as it continues northeastwards after passing through Cuba near 21.1 degrees north, 75.3 degrees west, still with some strong winds in there right now of 100 miles per hour estimated and a pressure estimate of 970 millibars. It has to be said that it has weakened pretty quickly since it reached Jamaica the other day. It's moving north-northeast at 14 miles per hour as of 10 a.m. this morning, October 29th. Well, the storm is expected to probably hold intensity now or soon, but still weakening is taking place at this moment in time. The wind field extending out up to 160 nautical miles on the northeastern quadrant. The western wind field is a little bit calmer. It is currently 103 kilometers from Holguin in Cuba, 206 from Long Island in the Bahamas, 218 from Crooked Island, 261 from Mayaguana, and 1618 from Bermuda, which now has a hurricane watch. This storm is expected to head straight up to Bermuda now through the Bahamas and could still be a strong hurricane by the time it gets there. In fact, there is a potential for re-intensification after it passes the Bahamas in between there and Bermuda, and the storm could potentially regain major hurricane strength or just stay as a Category 2. Hurricane force winds will be affecting the southeastern Bahamas later today as the storm sweeps northeastwards, increasing chances of hurricane force winds in Bermuda with winds of over 100 miles per hour possible if that storm manages to re-strengthen. That's the primary hazard right now as we continue onwards. Well, the good news is that only a population of around 2,000 are on the islands that will be affected by hurricane force winds shortly in the Bahamas, still affecting the coast of Cuba as well, but the forecast over the next couple of days here and beyond, taking the storm northeastwards close to Bermuda, this time on the western side now. That track has shifted and turning post-tropical near Newfoundland, probably delivering tropical storm force winds in the process. And then it says dissipated there, but in reality it's merged with a large extratropical cyclone, which then moves on across the North Atlantic. We'll take a look at that properly on the models shortly. So right now, winds were estimating 100 miles per hour. National Hurricane Center was 105 2 hours ago, and I expect they will drop it because Recon are only getting barely 100 mile an hour winds, if that. ADT is gone a little bit crazy. The storm melted their brains. They're still thinking that this storm is a Category 5. I can tell you categorically that it is nowhere near that. And thank goodness for that. The National Hurricane Center's latest forecast cone takes the storm pretty much along the lines that we've been talking about there, passing just west of Bermuda over the course of Thursday evening and Thursday night, and then on towards Newfoundland, turning post-tropical early on Saturday morning. Tropical storm force wind field there, forecast expectations. High chance for Bermuda and obviously for the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos Islands as well, a decent chance of tropical storm force winds further west. This is the GFS model scenario then, showing that the storm does strengthen back to major hurricane status briefly, shortly before reaching Bermuda. So this is something really to watch over there because the strongest winds will be on the eastern side of the storm, and so Bermuda could get pounded by 100 mile an hour winds or higher if a worst case scenario takes place. So Melissa might have one more trick up its sleeve before getting completely subsumed by this massive extratropical cyclone, and then trawling across the rest of the North Atlantic, really splitting up into different little systems there and affecting northern and western Europe. Here's the radar reflectivity simulation. Showing that in terms of the rainfall, though, the highest amounts and the heaviest rainfall will probably be on the storm's northern rim or even western side initially, before transferring more towards the north later on in that forecast period. So this storm, if it does end up, if it passes Bermuda on the western side, then Bermuda may actually be receiving the dry side of the storm, although after passing Bermuda, it gets a little bit towards the wet side again as it starts to become the big push towards the northeast. So in any case, rainfall amounts are still expected to be quite significant. If the storm does track directly over Bermuda, we could be looking at potentially 3 or 4 inches of rain, up to 100 millimeters. For areas still very close to the storm right now, parts of Jamaica and the Bahamas, we're expecting 9 or 10 inches of rainfall. That's getting up towards 250 millimeters, and so we could be looking at quite a bit of potential for flash flooding. And obviously this storm is still packing a storm surge too. Not going to be a massive one, but potentially still up towards 6 feet along parts of the eastern, central and southern Bahamas. Sea surface temperatures are still looking fairly decent. Don't forget that these numbers on our model read a little bit low. So in fact we're probably looking at around 28 degrees Celsius waters for a time, and then they'll drop to around 26 degrees Celsius till it gets near Bermuda, and then at that point those temperatures will drop off below that 26 degree threshold. Baroclinic forcing may still keep the storm strong for a bit before it ends up going over really cold waters, barely 10 degrees Celsius by the time it reaches Newfoundland. Well, here is the storm on satellite imagery right now, and you can see how the storm is appearing. It may have survived quite well the 1 landfall over Jamaica, but 2 over Cuba as well is just going to be too much for this storm to really get its core structure sorted out. Recon have been finding winds all over the place. Eastern side is the strongest right now in the limited passes that they've done so far, getting 90 knot winds at flight level. Here's some geocolor imagery as well, showing the storm's presence. The eye was really looking quite good before landfall. It was a Category 3 landfall in the end, even though it briefly got back to Category 4 status according to the National Hurricane Center, although I dispute that. And now the storm is moving north-northeasterly, moving off the coast of Cuba, which of course has probably been receiving some pretty strong winds there as well, and obviously really heavy rainfall causing flooding and landslides. Still a major concern there. There's still a little bit more of it to go yet in terms of the rainfall situation. And then looking at the satellite imagery, I think it might try and open out a very ragged wide eye now in this next sequence, which is pretty much the most likely scenario, but it is trying to throw up that convection there. Interesting to see what will happen in the next few hours, how that structure will end up materializing. Will it be a large eye, or will it be just bursts of convection with an eye that we can't actually see underneath all of that for a time? When I did see recon pass through, I suppose it did look quite a relatively tight eye still at this point in terms of the wind field data. They only just managed to get the pass because they didn't manage to get into the eye because it was still so close to land. Elsewhere around the world right now, we've got the remnants of Sonia, which have died off completely in the eastern Pacific. Melissa, the only thing going on in the Atlantic, but still obviously a big thing right now. Mantha, still a tropical depression inland over Andhra Pradesh, India, and a 50% chance for Invest 92A, which is just continuing to stall off the coast of western India. And a 50% chance now of development for that system in the Philippine Sea. And that is coming up next week, most likely, or this weekend.